Hey guys, I'm Dov and welcome back to Total War Warhammer 2. We're going to be taking a look at another online battle replay. Of course, I have taken the Lizardmen, as you can see from Lord Mazdamundi himself here. We are facing up against the foul Skaven hordes, so definitely in for a good time. Let's go ahead and take a look at the army compositions. I'm going to go ahead and pause it just because this battle is going to kick off fairly quick here and I wouldn't want to miss it. So of course we've got Lord Mazdamundi up on Slack. He's got 140 armor, great armor piercing, anti-infantry weapon strength, decent combat stats overall. He's also got some missile damage. These little skink buddies that are on the side here will pitch javelins, and they are poison, which is very nice. For his spell loadout, we've got some burst standard of Hexwaddle, gives him missile resistance, which is very pertinent against the Skaven. We've also got Cold-Blooded, of course, for the replenishment, Net of Ammontok for just tactical viability, Apotheosis for additional healing. We've got Arcane Unforging, which is very good against a single combatant, also increases the ability rate, recharge rate of enemy abilities, so that's very good. Shield of the Old Ones for some magic resistance, because the Skaven do have some very powerful magic and magic artillery. He's also got Banishment in case my opponent blobs up, and the Ruination of Cities likewise. So very fun stuff. Mazdamundi's an absolute beast and definitely competitive lord, especially against the Skaven. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the army. We've got a front line of Saurus warriors with shields. These guys look absolutely awesome. We can kind of take in the visuals for a minute here. They're backed up on either flank by two skink cohort with javelins. We've also got a Saurus spear on each flank. No shields for these guys. But yes, the skink cohorts with javelins. These guys are decent in melee. They also carry some nice javelins to do some skirmishing very fast. And just look at how adorable they are. Oh my goodness. Skinks are definitely one of my new favorite units. They're so cute. Oh, they're just so adorable. I almost can't take it. We also do have one unit of skinks here in the center, just as kind of a meat shield, but up against the Skaven, these guys will actually do pretty decently. Let's see, another two skink cohorts with javelins here. For rear line, for some armor-piercing anti-infantry, we've got a Feral Pestilent, two units of Feral Cold Ones, which are very cheap and can potentially do a lot of damage if you use them right. We've also got a Pestilent with the Revivification. I knew I was going to screw that up. Revivification. Oh my goodness. I'm going to try and say that 10 times fast every morning. But anyway, it's got the healing crystal, of course, the anti-infantry, armor piercing, all that good stuff, poison missile damage. You know it's going to be for a good time. So it actually has 10 charges of this healing ability, and it's a healing ability unlike many others, except for the vampire counts. It actually does heal dead combatants if all of the combatants in the target unit are restored to full, which is unlikely if they're in combat, but we'll see it in action later here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Skaven army composition. You can see they're already opening up here. My opponent's brought a very heavy artillery force, two Plague Claw catapults, which look absolutely gorgeous, as well as one Warp Lightning cannon here in the center. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. To help support them, he does have a Warlock Engineer, which is very interesting. This guy looks really cool. I haven't used him too much myself, but I'd imagine he has some kind of niche. Let's see what spells he's brought. He's got, that's a self, looks like an augment, map-wide, active if he's casting, interesting. Warp Lightning, he's brought Howling Warp Gale, so that's the one that pins down flying units. He's got this wind spell as well, which we'll see later, and Doom Rocket, so interesting stuff. He's also got a Hell Pit Abomination here, which of course has heavy regeneration, armor piercing, anti-large, lots of good stuff here. Fear and Terror, all that jazz. He's also got, let's see, Queek Headtaker as the Lord, and for infantry, two clan rats with spears on each flank. Yep. Looks like actually two on this flank, one on this flank. The main line is a mix of clan rats, Skaven slaves with spears, so very cheap on the front line. He's also got this unit of Plague Plague Monk Sensor Bears, which I'm not super sold on these guys. They do the contaminated leadership damage, they have magic attacks, and heavy armor-piercing weapon strength. The issue is they cost 1100 gold, which is the same as Black Orcs, and they only have 10 armor. Granted, they do have 15% physical resistance, frenzy, lots of other good stuff, but for the cost, these guys are just a little bit flimsy. They probably need to see them come down in cost a little bit for them to really be effective. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the Skaven build. Fairly straightforward, just a horde of Skaven. So we're going to march up the pipe here. You can see my opponent opening up on the poor little skinks. What did these guys ever do to deserve this? It's alright though, they're a fairly cheap unit, so I don't mind him shooting at these guys rather than my Saurus. That's perfectly fine with me. We're just going to be advancing across the board. Mazdamundi is a very big target, so my opponent's going to wisely start putting in shots on him, especially with that Warp Lightning Cannon. Going to do a pretty decent amount of damage there, actually. So Mazdamundi will need to be careful of that. It is worth noting that the Warp Lightning Cannon does magic damage, which means the Shield of the Old Ones can potentially help counter it if it's really firing in heavily on Mazdamundi. You can see a couple nice hits there, doing quite a bit of damage, but the Plague Call Catapult looks like it's targeting the Saurus Warriors. A very good pick. We're just, at this point, just a slow rush. Lizardmen are a little bit slow. At least their Saurus. Skinks are very, very fast. You can see these skinks over here opening up with their poison javelins on these clan rats. These are clan rats without shields, so they'll take all that missile fire right to the face. They're not going to be too happy about that, so they'll give chase. And honestly, I could probably beat these guys in melee with these two units, but might as well do some skirmishing with them while we have the opportunity. Meanwhile, in the mainline engagement here, you can see Saurus just pummeling through, timed well with the the feral cold ones. We'll put it in slow motion here as I talk about a few things. So this is something that I do with the greenskins and with others with this, you know, cheap kind of quote-unquote feral armor-piercing beasts, is you time them in with the infantry charge. They'll do a ton of damage on the charge, and now even if they go berserk, that's fine. They're going to be on these clan rats. They're potentially going to be pushing through on some of these other high-value units. So that's perfectly fine with me, you know, if they decide to rampage at this point. Pretty much using them almost like you would elephants in, you know, Rome 2, just to kind of be line breakers. You can see also this revivification crystal. I'm going to just screw that up constantly. Also getting in, doing some very nice damage here. The clan rats with spears will definitely lose to Saurus with spears. Meanwhile, the skinks doing their job and just skirmishing this unit on the flank down. You can see a very nice net just barely catches Queek right on the edge of it, which is really unfortunate for my opponent. He definitely needed Queek to support this main line. You can see it's crumbling very, very quickly. These Skaven are not liking getting pummeled by all these lizards. The skinks doing very well in the center, supported by the feral cold ones. So the Plague Sensor Bearer is being activated, but at this point, most of the Skaven line is crumbled already. That banishment isn't great, but it is going to get some of these routing units, so that's okay. Meanwhile, over on this flank, the Hell Pit Abomination probably needs to be going after Mazdamundi himself. You can see Shield of the Cold One's now going, because I saw that Warp Lightning Cannon was firing in on him, decided to just drop that magic resistance to help him stay here a little longer. Meanwhile, these units of Skaven Slaves and Clan Rats are not going to be able to hold up for too long here. I definitely want to try and get this Saurus with spears over onto this Hell Pit Abomination. However, you can see these Feral Cold Ones going berserk, but as I was saying, they're still useful when they're berserk. They're going to get a nice rear charge in on these Clan Rats with spears and the Skaven Slaves and probably rout them off from the leadership damage there. Meanwhile, you can see I'm pushing through, trying to get on these artillery pieces here. We've got these Feral Cold Ones, which are just rampaging around, currently circle beating that Warp Block Engineer, which is a bit unfortunate, but we are going to path back these Skink cohort, going to get them actually on this Warp Lightning Cannon here. I was going to go for the Plague Clock Catapult, but this Warp Lightning Cannon is definitely a higher value target at this point, considering it could potentially take down Mazdamundi, which could swing this fight back in my opponent's favor, but at that point you can see the balance of power sort of started to tip in my favor. We're getting a nice break here in the center. Storm Vermin, I failed to mention earlier, are over here doing some nice armor-piercing anti-large damage to the Bastiladon with the Revivification Crystal. However, it's not going to be enough, but you can see a very nice wind spell lined up by my opponent here, going to do a lot of damage and immediately send those Saurus Warriors into Rampage, but again, they'll keep fighting as long as they're Rampage, so no big deal. Meanwhile, we've got these Clan Rats with spears are just chasing the skinks all the way across the map, not being overly effective, but a lot of these units here in the center are starting to rally now. However, the skinks getting back on this Warp Lightning Cannon, taking it down, very, very nice for such a cheap unit. And you can see this Plague Claw Catapult not firing currently. It definitely needs to be given some kind of attack order here. Queek's been... we actually dropped an Arcane on Forging on him. And it did quite a bit of damage. You can see he's very low now. He's getting circle beaten by those Saurus Warriors. But did use that nice escape ability. He's going to try and tactically reposition here. But all these units are going crazy, which means I don't even have to control them. They're going to continue chasing after Queek since he's the closest unit. And you can see the Bastiladon Skinks actually chucking some Poison Spears there. Skink cohorts just cleaning up routing units on the flanks at this point. And you can see here we got a nice net of Ammontok that I actually missed earlier. Pinned down a lot of these units here. Going to continue to use that Shield of the Old Ones just to screen out all these units. There's not really a lot that can do magic damage anymore, but you never know. Wasn't sure if that Warplock Engineer, yep, looks like he's still fighting, so those Feral Cold Ones just continuing to circle beat on him, and they're going to definitely munch him up and push him around a lot. He's going to struggle to get any attack animations there. But at this point, we're just pushing through. You can see a lot of the Skaven forces shattering, and that's going to be all she wrote for the ratmen. So well played to my opponent. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that. Everyone's kind of still figuring out new builds, learning what works, what doesn't work. So let's talk through some things here. For my build, I definitely like Saurus Warriors against Skaven. You know, they have the weapon strength and the staying power to really just cut through most Skaven frontline units. Storm Vermin can probably take them on, but I don't know how cost-effective that trade would be. I'd need to do a little bit more testing. But the Skink cohort potentially showing their worth as well, being timed very well with those Feral Cold Ones, breaking through the center and getting on that Warp Lightning Cannon, absolutely critical. You can see it actually got 2 chevrons. I'm not sure if it started with any, but it did some really nice damage to Mazdamundi, so definitely a viable option against the Lizardmen. I would recommend bringing this thing, definitely. The Feral Cold Ones did decent, considering they only cost about 450. That's pretty nice. Skink Cohort didn't need to do too much. They're just more to harass on the flanks. Since Skaven lack really any kind of mobility outside of Rat Ogres and Doom Wheels, which you typically won't see, I would think, against the Lizardmen. These guys can potentially be a great flanking harass unit. Of course, the Feral Bastiladon didn't take a whole lot of damage, mostly just terrifying away and mulching through that front line. Revivification Crystal got some good healing in. I didn't manage to catch any of it, but you know, helping keep those Saurus fighting and healthy. Very, very good stuff. For my opponent's build, Clan Rats, you know, without shields are just a tough pick because they're really just a meat shield unit, but they're more expensive than Skaven Slaves, so I don't know that I would really bring these guys. I'm a big fan of the regular Plague Monks, not the Censer Bearers. I would probably cut these guys as well. Just get the regular Plague Monks, and the Death Runners can be pretty good as well because they have Armor Sundering and Armor Piercing. Probably a little bit heavier on the artillery. The Hell Pit Abomination could have been a really good play if he had got it on Mazdamundi. It would have been a big struggle for me, but unfortunately just missed playing a little bit. I probably would have cut one of these Plague Claw Catapults just to bring better quality of infantry. The Storm Vermin are definitely a good pick here. But, you know, everyone's still learning. I'm not sure that anything I've just said is 100% accurate, but you guys will have to let me know what you think. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'm keeping it coming with more Total War Warhammer 2 content every single day. So stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time.